I spent spring break weekend in the city of Bahia, Ecuador, which was my home for this week-long trip. The day before this, I was standing in the back of a truck barreling down the highway, and the day before that, I was petting a 140-year-old tortoise. Let me go back a little bit. Earlier this year, a bunch of students from Redwood High School, including myself, signed up to go on a service trip to Ecuador. Our goal there was to do reforestation work, while at the same time providing an American perspective in the country, so that they could hopefully be empowered to help within their own communities. We all took lots of photos and wrote down in journals while we were there, but this film stands on its own to document the adventure. This is a comprehensive record of what we did, narrated by me, so that we can all remember the full Redwood High School GSE Ecuador experience. Our adventure started by getting on the Marin Airporter in San Rafael, driving to San Francisco Airport, flying from San Francisco to Panama City to Guayaquil, and then taking a bus to Bahia. We met our trip leaders for the week, David and Rebecca, at the airport. They're both native Spanish speakers who were fluent in English, and they quickly became some of our closest friends. Once in Bahia, we were given our rooms in the hostel, the quick tour, rundown on the rules, and then away we went to Don Carlos's, a place where we'd eat dinner for the majority of the trip. After that, we wandered around the town more, eventually ending up at the beach, where we saw the occasional stray dog running around. Now, for the work we'd be doing, we had to learn a couple of basic skills and how to use a couple of different types of tools. We learned how to use a machete to clear the debris on the ground, and use a hole digger to create space to plant the trees. We also learned the nuances of planting the trees, such as how deep and how much dirt to put in them. After this, we stopped around the city at a place called Sayananda, where we were met with a surprise. We got to meet Miguelito, a 140-year-old Galapagos tortoise. We then met Doña Rosa, a woman who has been cooking for GSE since the beginning. We also met her many kids and grandkids, who allowed me to photograph them, resulting in some beautiful portraits. To cap off a great day, we went to the beach and were entertained by some local kids, and then played a game of soccer with some teenagers. For our first day of real work, the bus was stuck behind a protest, leaving David scrambling to find us transport. Eventually, it was decided that we would all pile into the hostel's car and the hostel's pickup truck, which was a pretty big feat on its own considering the amount of us that were there. Jacob, Lia, and I ended up riding in the bed of the truck with 3 local kids, Cecilio, Anthony, and Andres. None of us had ever been driven around like this before, and it was actually really fun. Because this trip was mostly about the work, I elected not to bring my camera for this part. After that, we went to Isla de la Corazon, where we took a motorboat around the island and looked at birds, and then transferred into shallow canoes for a trip through the center of the mangroves, where we could get a close-up look at crabs and other animals. There was also a snake.
Go. I don't like this, I don't like this.
No, please don't.
No!
The next day, we spent working in town with lots of local kids. We didn't know them yet, and there were a lot of them, so we played games to get some camaraderie going. It's amazing how even though we didn't speak each other's language, we were able to play games and communicate with them without speaking. We planted trees on the side of the road and eventually got to know the teens pretty well. A local man had a coconut tree, and he offered to open one up for us, so we all shared a drink. As usual, we went to Doña Rosa's again for lunch, but this time we were met by a local painter named Javier, who helped us to paint the side of the house in a mural that he had been doing since the earthquake. One of our most eventful days happened after all the work. We went to the beach in a way that none of us ever had, in the back of a giant truck. We walked on this amazing beach to Punta Gorda, where we played a game of volleyball and then went into the ocean. And then when we were least expecting it, Kotone stepped on what we can only assume was a stingray. She ended up having to go to the hospital for 3 nights, but she's totally okay now. After that, we went to the local school and helped with their greenhouse and hung out with the kids again. That night was Passover, so David and the 2 teachers bought some improvised Passover foods, and Jacob led us in our own little Seder. Our last day of work was very relaxed. We planted some trees at Ranch Xanadu, owned by the same man who owned the hostel, and hung out in some hammocks and talked with the locals. We then went to visit Kotone in the hospital and played a game as a group. It was also Amy's birthday that night, so after dinner, we had some ice cream. We went to bed with a warning that we would have a travel day the next day. So when we woke up, we all loaded up into a bus and drove a couple hours to the city of Porto Lopez, marking the beginning of the tourist part of the trip. It was Jacob's birthday, so at lunch, David convinced a very nice local woman to let Jacob hold her husky puppy that was so cute that words can't even do it justice. That night, we walked around the shops looking for gifts for our families and for goodies for ourselves. On our last full day in Ecuador, we went to Isla de la Plata via an hour-long boat ride. The island is a nature preserve covered with birds of all kinds. I was shooting photos the whole time, so there isn't too much to show you. We also went snorkeling, which resulted in everyone getting mini stings by the tiny jellyfish that were all throughout the water. That night, Kotone came back just before the debrief. We all talked about our adventures, and everyone got super emotional as we all loaded up into the bus back to Guayaquil to fly home. That didn't last very long. YMCA. YMCA. So now here we are, back in the airport. In just a few hours, our phones and our computers will light up from their week-long nap, and the floods of emails and social media notifications will crash over us and consume our attention as we recover from the trip. Looking back, I can't remember one specific Instagram post I saw or one email I replied to. But that week I spent with my peers, I can tell you exactly what I was doing on any hour of any day, there with my friends, and I can remember vividly exactly what I was doing and what I was thinking.
Damas y caballeros, sean todos bienvenidos a la ciudad de San Francisco. La hora local, 13:21 de la tarde. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to San Francisco City. Local time 3:20 the afternoon.
This is an experience that none of us will ever forget, and it was one of the best experiences that we'll ever have the honor of going on again, despite the insane heat.
I said one more time. Can I see? Yay!